All right, we are live. Hey, good evening, LinkedIn. Dave Wilson, Results Staffing and Social Media. Hey, listen, tonight's one of the great shows I love for the Ring of Fire show, bringing on a candidate that's really seeking a new opportunity. And the best part, Travis is also a veteran that we're going to talk about. So we're going to be right back after these messages. You like how fast that cuts off, Travis?
Fantastic.
That's pretty cool. Hey, everybody, listen, tonight I have Travis Lane, and he's MBA, Project Management, Industrial Organizational Psychology, PhD, Army veteran, which is great. And he's located in Artesia, New Mexico.
Artesia.
Artesia, all right. Tonight, Travis, this is your opportunity here to just talk about yourself. And I like to always start off with, tell us about you and about your family and your life right now.
Okay. So, married. I have 4 children. My wife and I are actually both ex-military.
Nice.
We've lived everywhere from Alaska, Florida, Connecticut, New England, Kansas, Arizona. We've seen the country, been through a few places out of country. That was my military experience. And we ended up in Artesia, New Mexico, as I'm doing line work, and my wife is actually finishing her MBA.
Awesome.
So yeah, we're taking turns, and we're a team.
Hey, real quick, what's the weather like over in Mexico right now?
We're hitting 90s every day now. So
90?
we're getting there.
Whoa.
Yeah, we'll be in the 110s here pretty soon.
I'm going to introduce you to Steve. He's over in Utah. He's with a great staffing company, and I know Steve's going to have some questions tonight. But talk about, Travis, what I like about yourself is being a veteran as myself. I mean, being in the military, just the leadership, what you learn, and how many years did you have?
I had 3.5 in the Army.
3.5 in the Army. And
yes.
Tell us about what you did in the military.
Well, I signed up as a 19 Delta, which is a Cav Scout. I ended up going to OSIT for a little over 4 months, 16 weeks. And my first duty station was in Fort Riley, Kansas, first ID.
Oh, wow.
So I went from New England out into the Midwest. That was I wouldn't say a culture shock, because I've already been around my civilian experience before that. The interesting thing was that I entered the military a little bit later in life, as they had a great opportunity if you're willing to make the sacrifice.
Right.
And sacrifice was definitely made, especially being gone probably 7 months out of the year, every year, the op tempo there. It was definitely tough, but it worked out. I had a great time. I mean, I was a little older going into basic training, one-stop unit training rather. And,
right.
It's being older than I'd say most of the guys, probably 90% of them, I've already led men, international projects. So it wasn't really a hard transition for me and being screamed at. And,
I was 17, 18. I was 17. I signed up at 17, went in at 18. Yeah. So I know what you're saying. We were all young, but we did have the guys they were like maybe 25, 30, we have your colleague, Bill, on tonight, so Bill's saying hi.
How you doing, Bill?
He's a great colleague. Everybody on this show, I always tell them to connect, and they're just really good. Hey, listen, talk to us about your education, because you have such education I want to talk about. I should say I'm not the best with words, but talk about that.
Well, I ended up only doing 3.5 in the military to get my GI Bill. I consider staying in, but risk analysis, cost benefit analysis did not make sense with
Right.
age being chaptered out, the new Army combat fitness test coming out. The veterans will understand what I'm talking about with that. But 2 years in, I got my corporal. I passed the board very early, and doing the math, it didn't make sense to stay in. I
Right.
love my service. I would love to stay in, but being gone 7 months out of the year,
It's hard.
and I ended up getting a kind of a penchant or an affinity for numbers and analytics and stuff like that, because I was like, I can't see this working.
Right.
So I ended up reading the entire GI Bill. Yes, I was that guy.
We had that. We had that. Not many people, they didn't take advantage of it. I know I didn't. I mean, it was new in the early 90s.
I mean, I don't think most people do take advantage of it, even the ones that utilize it, especially the ones that utilize it in ways outside of the academic arena.
Right.
Because I ended up reading it and found out that there were certain ways to leverage that to the best of my interests, which were
Right.
yellow ribbon schools, which negated the 28,800 limit on academic year. So there was no limit, which is a deal that they had with the federal government.
Right.
So doing that, I could double and triple up. So I did my BA in sociology, my MBA, the emphasis of project management, both under 2 years, 3.9, 4.0 GPA, both summa cum laude.
Right.
So
Oh my God, that's awesome.
it was a heavy thing, because working 50 hours a week in the lineman industry, then coming home doing 5 hours a night, work until 11 midnight, doing all the formulas and linear regression, all that fun stuff.
Right.
But on the weekends, it was still 10, 12-hour days on the computer for it's a great sacrifice, but
That is.
it was
Especially when you lose things like that for your family. I mean, that's where it comes out. I did want to tell Steve and Bill, and if anybody's watching would like to ask some questions, please feel free to ask a question. What Travis does, anything that you feel, please. I'll put your comment up on the thread here. When I first talked to you, I like how you said, where you're open to relocating, and you said something that I remember is like, I like how you said, if the company fits you,
right.
and talk to about that. Like, what kind of a company are you looking for? So
in my past, I've worked for myself, co-ran a business. I've worked for large corporations, small companies. I've juxtaposed each benefits of each. It's a give and take relationship, but I would say I definitely like to put emphasis on a relationship where there's an atmosphere and a culture that values kind of individuality, having not micromanaging, looking for like investing in each other, right? There's a reciprocity interest where you invest in your employees, your management, because that's an investment in the company itself. But there's a lot of other companies out there, the Fortune Top 100, that may or may not necessarily have that vested interest. Just another cog in the machine that you can rip and replace with another.
And that's what I look at, because even with staffing, there's some companies that the culture I really like, and I try to sell that all the time, the company culture. And it makes sense. When you look at a job, it's not all about the money or your salary, but if it's a good fit, and you like their culture of it, people are doing that more often now, because there's so much opportunities and the candidates are on lower. So it's kind of like an employee's market,
Right, exactly. And it's like I said, I mean, when you've experienced being a cog versus a decision maker, someone that's a real game changer, and you creates value, and it actually, when you have the chance to grow and take advantage of vertical mobility in a company, it's inspiring.
Right.
A great example is when I passed the board in the military, right? It's a very, very structured entity, right? 2 years in, very fast speed, I ended up being nabbed by the colonel from an E4 into an E6 slot. Nice. So I was working two slots above myself, and doing all this administrative, operations management stuff at the higher level. I, reluctantly declined, with all due respect. I kind of liked working with my men and having that relationships rather than, but it was just another cog in the machine. I wasn't able to actually get my stripes because I had to re-enlist in order to go to BLC or, and that kind of was another taste of, the big entity not caring
Right.
about the individual, because, and again, like investing in, your employees is different though, because if you were to send someone to school, if they earned it that early, maybe they'd
Right.
feel a little more inclined to feel a little more valued, a little more, inculcated or integrated into the system, the company, the unit.
Right.
Yeah, it was definitely, I've seen that happen plenty of times before.
And that's where I always look at the military the same thing: Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines. My whole family are. Our father dropped us off at 17 before graduation and said, "Sign up." And I never regret that, because I think what you learn in the military, regardless how long you've been in, is you transition through all your life. I mean, I'm 54.
Right.
I was in at 17 and 18. I finished up my high school diploma. You could get in there. I was a little bad boy. When I went in there, I actually finished my high school, and you could do that then. And I really believe that it helps you through your career.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting though, because a lot of the values, leadership values, leadership, duty, honesty, integrity, and all that,
Right.
it really transfers over quite well into, being a responsible, organized leader in anything that you do. I think that, with my segue, my reintegration to the civilian sector wasn't as hard,
Right.
because I had 15 years of, running a business and doing
Right.
my own thing. So, which also made it easier to, transition into the Army as well as out.
That's true. Yeah, that's right. You said you went in. All right. That's right. Wow.
Mhm.
That must have been
So,
hard.
I mean, it was more putting my pride aside and kind
Right.
of, but yeah, I made some amazing friends. I had some amazing experiences overseas, Middle East.
Right.
Definitely a lot of tenacity. You know, there was not much I could take out of the Army
Right.
that
Right. Hey, Rob, how
wasn't
you doing?
valuable.
Oh, I can imagine. And I go through it every day. I love my military. I'm proud of that. I've been in the military, that I served. I believe everybody should. I think it would straighten
Yeah.
out a lot of people, Hi, Rob, how you doing? Rob also is another great colleague to reach out to. I wanted to ask you, when it comes to, when I interview someone like yourself, I don't know everything about you. And the words to me sometimes when I look at a resume is project management. Okay. Explain that and what you're looking for, because that's so broad.
Yes.
Market manager, business manager, market executive, business development. Does it all come into one?
It can, depending on the role. Like when I was doing my company, New Objective Concrete, family business, it was marketing, it was
Right.
product development, it was design, it was operations, it was also negotiation. I mean, all those meld into one, because it's not a very large corporation. We do $100,000 jobs and under, so it
Right.
wasn't like amazingly huge, where you would need different roles to fill different, needs, tasks, responsibilities, then delineate, downwards. But in larger, firm, where maybe less hands-on at each level, you're
Right.
probably more on the organizational side, as far as hours, equipment, assets, time management, overlapping tasks being
Right.
required for one task to finish before another task starts. A lot of that's done in projects or 365, but at each role, like I like project management though, because I think I've done it. It's kind of a comfort zone for me. Definitely
Right.
be on more macro scale, depending on where I work. Operations is just next door. It's
Right.
very dissimilar, but also similar in a lot of ways.
I got one
And
question real quick I want to ask you. And
shoot.
I had talked to you before about this. Let's see if I say it right.
Mhm.
All right. What is organizational? Jesus, here we go. Wait, you said this. I have acquired robust knowledge and understanding of qualitative research methodologies of people thinking and how they believe and how they behave. And you analyze events by interpreting numeral data. Talk to me, man. Talk to me.
Okay.
This is, I read through it. Okay, I read through it, but wow.
I'll simplify it as best I can. So, industrial organizational psychology is a mix of obviously the industrial and the organizational, right? So you're working basically with a field that focuses on increasing productivity, with also maintaining and increasing the well-being of physical and mental parts of your human assets or your
Right.
employees, right? So that can go for training, that can go for ergonomics, employee selection, group dynamics, which is actually why the dissertation is on, especially focusing on technology across demographics in the
Right.
workplace. Yeah, no, it's really cool stuff. So, and the reason I got into that was I love psychology very much. So I went into sociology, which is understanding cultures, people, diversity,
Right.
inclusivity, and all that in a company. But at the next level, it's the MBA. MBA brings more business analytical and quantitative side. So we went from sociology qualitative to MBA more quantitative. Now we marry those two in together, becomes more of a mixed methodology, which is qualitative and quantitative in the industrial organizational psychology field, which is the perfect blend and marrying of harmonious between those two. So it was a
Right.
very calculated methodical linear path to where I wanted to be. And a lot of people ask me, why are you doing IO psychology if you want to work in the business sector and field? And I'm like, the IO
That's
is
what
just
I'm curious about. That's a question, and then we'll get to Steve's. But that is a question. How do you bring that in?
one of the hardest questions in this interview is, what is your greatest weakness?
Oh yeah. You want to go ahead and answer, Steve?
I don't have, I would say, weaknesses. I have weaker strengths. Weaknesses are just areas to grow on. I really hate, like that question, because it puts you in a box of saying that you're incapable. But weaknesses is really contextual. It's very relative to how strong your strengths are and how weak your weaknesses are compared to others or the needs of the role. You know what I mean? So that question really traps you, and it's one that's hard to answer because you end up kind of falling into that trap.
Yeah,
It's a tough question.
I don't like it personally, but you get asked it. You get asked it. That's common.
Yeah, and I think you can answer it without answering it. If I had to answer it in a way that you would expect, it would probably be, I wouldn't say culturally, but
Right.
I've been all over. It would probably be experience on a macro scale, because I understand everything I've been in and I do it very well. But I think, putting myself in a new system is definitely a shaker of confidence.
Right.
I can look back and say, I finished as honor grad in the Army, and then NCO, and then, summa cum laude. Everything I've done has always been at the top, even at my SLTC and I finished the top 4% of test takers for the ASVAB. I finished in the top 3% of SLTC school for alignment.
Awesome.
So, I know I can do it, but I think my greatest weakness is probably confidence in a new situation. But
that's what the questions, like the way you state that, is, I enjoy listening to somebody like that, because that's the first time I ever heard it that way. And I'm sorry, it's because what you've done, what your background is. My question to that is, I always want to say, well, I don't have any weaknesses, but because, like you said,
you have weaker points, but not necessarily weaknesses. The question is framed
right
to make you show humility, and I think that's what they're looking for.
Right.
But also at the same time, if you're a confident individual who has accolades and things that you can, bullet point in an interview, a conversation,
Right.
It's like, why would you, elucidate the kind of response they're looking for by making yourself appear anything less than competent?
All right, here you go. Here's one for you. Do you want to read that one?
I'm reading it.
Okay. I think about interviewing. If you fail the test, they want to talk to you.
Are we talking a written test? Or are we talking verbal tests?
Let's see. I think about interviewing is they give you a test and you fall the test. They don't talk to you. I believe that what he's talking there is also he's taken some of the
biometrics. Or are we talking like an IAT? Are we talking personality? Are we talking skills? So, for instance, a lot of people right now, there's this new thing I actually posted on my profile page. Please check it out. It's about biometrics, which is it tests your ability, your cognitive ability to decipher, to puzzle solve, problem solve in an innovative and adaptive way, probably timed, and also with the level of altruism kind of sprinkled in there, what it sounds like. It wasn't a real well-written article, but a lot of large companies are using it. So in a pass-fail like that, a lot of people that don't understand, like, they're people like me. I've done construction, I've done serving, I've done Army, I've done line work, I've done concrete, I've done so many things, but people who haven't done a lot of things don't realize in some things that there is a written test, there is a verbal test, there is an interview, and there's a skills assessment. For linemen, they have you put your gear on and go climb that 65-foot pole. If you're not a competent climber, you're not getting the job. Forget about the interview. A lot of industries already do this. They have probationary periods. That might be a contingent on, before they hire you on, there was a probationary period that you work at a reduced, pay, or, they reserve the right to, send you on your way.
For that. So, Rob has another question for you.
How do you gain experience if nobody gives you a chance? I think a lot of it is kind of taking the chance yourself. Like, a lot of companies don't give you a chance, but again, having interpersonal skills, communication, being able to articulate in an eloquent way what you can do, because if you're able to convey the fact that you are adaptive, you are conscientious, you're industrious, you have high potential growth, you can't see your ceiling. Some people, when you talk to them, you can see their ceiling, and that's where they're at. I mean, if you're just trying to fill a role, for a little bit, sure, that's fine, fantastic.
Right.
But I think, getting a chance is really getting the visibility.
No, and Rob's been through a couple of issues, he's been going through interview processes and the job changes, and he sees the stress of, like yourself or anybody just going to try to find a new position. It's a different market nowadays. So when you're looking at what you want to do right now, I know you said you are willing to relocate for a company that you really like anywhere in the United States. What makes you say that, like anywhere in the United States? Like, would you prefer East Coast, West Coast, or it doesn't really matter as long as you get that job?
For me, I have kind of two areas I focus on when I answer that question. I do want to relocate. I do not want to be in the state. I grew up in the ocean. It's in my blood.
Right.
I'm drowning in sand. However, if it was a good fit somewhere else in the Midwest, Great Lakes area, I mean, Florida, as long as it's a good fit, that is the primary. Right. Secondary would be coastline. Yeah, but my wife has we have to have good schooling. There's other factors that go into it, but I think primarily, as long as the company invests in its managerial team and there's longevity, there's interest, there's loyalty, and vertical mobility also. So you're not into a job and you're stuck at that role for 10 years without any kind of, growth, either financially or role, responsibility, personal growth, etc.
I always say that, and I hear it all the time, like when you're in a company, you've been there for 10 years, why don't I get promoted? Sometimes, it's two ways, but sometimes I believe it's the management within the organization, why they have to go out. Why they have to go outside of the company, when if you bring growth within, like you should be grooming somebody to take your job. I've always taught, if I had to leave a company within a day, I want somebody there to right behind me. You should have somebody that can just take your job. In a heartbeat, train them, teach them, and that's important to me. Steve has another question for you.
Yeah, he said, why should we hire you? He's a big fan of turning around and asking, why would you not want to hire me?
I like that.
That's good. That's aggressive. I like that. I don't like answering question to the question. I would say something, honestly, you want a winner. And obviously I would have expressed, I win. I might not be, there is no perfect candidate. There is no one that has interpersonal skills, the technical skills, the leadership skills, and an amalgamation, in perfect harmonious order. So they're never going to find the unicorn they're looking for. But who can fit the role best, and who's a winner, who wants to grow, who works, and you can show that in your interview, through your past, in your present. Right now I'm working on my PM. I'll have my LSS and my lean certifications next week, and I'm working on my PMP as well. And I'm working on my IO PhD. You want someone who's willing to keep growing. I'm 37 years old.
Right.
I don't think you're going to find many people doing that. That's why you want to hire.
You don't. That's rare, and even the way you've approached, and that's what I like about yourself, the way we talk. You're very educated. And again, I go back to that military because that's what I like. And how it changes your life is. So what? Oh, first of all, I wanted to tell everybody, listen, if you are interested, please, I have all Travis's information right on the bottom going across, even his email. We're going to put his resume, everything, but please share this video here on your LinkedIn page. I really appreciate it, because what I wanted to say is video is very powerful, and everybody knows the way I talk about it. It's not just your resume, but it's a person here that we're talking about. Would you have known Travis if it wasn't on this show? If you watch this and you really would like to reach out to him, if he sent the resume to you, would you reach out? Sometimes no. But video really shows the person's personality. I always say, do you trust me? Do you trust him? The way he talks, the way his education, would he be a fit for your company? And all the key words that he has said that I pick up as a recruiter for all my years, that I write down, and you've said the right key words, and it comes right off you quick. It's not like you even have to think about it. And that's what I like about interviewing yourself. Tell me, what do you have to offer a company? I know when Steve asked that, but what kind of value do you bring to a company right now? If you say your strongest part, what do you bring?
Organizational skills. Even where I'm working now, I see plenty of issues, room for improvement, way to cut labor hours off of jobs. Immediate improvement is the goal. I mean,
Right.
Not just filling a spot, you're looking for improvement. If you're looking to fill a spot, anyone can do.
Right.
Also, I think like when you do a hire, it's also an investment, and you don't want someone who is stepping stone, who's going to use you as a stepping stone. So that's value and loyalty. So there's two sides of the same coin, right? There's quality and quantity. Quantity of work, quality of person, and they're equivocal in a way. And that's something I offer, is something that I'm not looking for a stepping stone, and I can improve processes. I learn extremely quickly. I'm adaptive, agile management, obviously. Every industry is different across project management. You go to the IT sector versus the construction sector. Yes. So, of course, there's kind of a integration or kind of inculcation process of learning whatever industry you're looking at.
Right.
But they're very diverse, and you're looking for someone who's very, agile, understands group dynamics, the people side, the analytics side, and everything in between that becomes project management, operations, human resources. I mean, these all have overlaps and intersectionalities between each. So they're not necessarily, mutually exclusive in roles, responsibilities, skills, and et cetera.
Well, how do you, I mean, you got four children, right? What are their ages? What are the ages?
You got a 12, a 7, 19-month, and like a 8-month. So we got two Irish twins. So
wow, you got nerves of steel and everything that you're doing. I can imagine. And what gets you going? Travis, what your passion, what your engagement? What do you strive for?
I hate that question too. It's because it puts a limit. It puts a limit on where you want to go. I don't want to put a limit on where I go. I want to keep on going.
Right.
There is no stop until I retire.
That's I like that, because my passion, everybody knows, is like the social media and just the visual. Like
passion wise is people and organizational principles. I love both of those, and you can do both.
Right.
My goals in the next 3 to 5 years, I really want to become a subject matter expert in the company that I'm working for and understand project management to where I can make decisions without having approval from higher ups, because they trust me and value my experience and decision-making skills.
That's awesome. I don't even know how you answered that, because that came off so quick. I still, at my age, 54, I'm like, I don't even know what I'm doing next year. I try to think, but like you said, I enjoy in a company that growth. It's got to be there. You've got to move them to the next area. If you're not, it goes stale. And if you're not investing in your people, that's a big thing for me.
It's got to be, it's got to be calculated, methodical, and also, most importantly, realistic. Smart goals. We all know what those are. So do you want knowledgeable person who's stuck, or is a very hard worker? That's a tough juxtaposition.
They get some good questions.
I think the best answer for that, Rob, is definitely dependent on the role. Like if I needed someone to run machinery, it would be someone who's a very hard worker. If I needed someone for organizational leadership and decision-making skills, probably someone's more knowledgeable. I have this one gentleman right now I work with. He is a borderline genius in his own right, very innovative, very adaptable. He can do problem solving in very interesting ways on the spot without thinking about it, but his interpersonal and administrative skills prevent him to ascending to a managerial level. It would just be a bad fit for him.
Right.
So he's stuck at foreman. He will never go higher.
And I like how you're honest with that. I believe being honest to a candidate and either say, listen, you either guide them, train them, or you have to talk with them. A lot of people don't like to have that, talk with somebody, sit down, close the door, open door policy, talk. What do you want? You gotta tell somebody, Steve, I like that. Great answer.
Thank you, Steve.
Good on that. What I want to do before we finish up is, if you have a minute here, and this is your time, and we're going to get this shared out, as many videos as we can, share it to different sites. What are you looking for? Where do you want to go? And it's your minute.
Most importantly, for me, it's about good fit with culture, compensation. I make out pretty well now, but I worked hard for where I want to go, and I value myself. Wherever I go, I want them to value me as much as I value myself, and value them as much as they want me to value them.
I've never heard of that. That was awesome. I like that. I've never heard of that.
I'm very open to moving wherever. It's really about opportunity, vertical mobility, value, reciprocity in investment between the company and the manager. So, yeah.
Oh, you have Daryl here from Texas.
Daryl, it depends on the person, their personality. Some people are motivated by extrinsic rewards. Some are motivated by intrinsic rewards. The difference between is compensation monetarily, or you can intrinsically reward someone with a pat on the back, hey, good job, or hey, here's 4 hours paid time off. Have a nice day. You've been busting your butt for us. It really depends on the individual. I don't think that should be a blanket application, depending on the company, obviously. But it's really the reward in itself should be rewarding. So if you're going to reward someone, it has to be to their interest, to their personality.
I like that.
It's very, it's you got to tailor it.
Oh, here we go. This guy speaks. Okay, the spot I would hire based on his ability to quickly answer. I know, Steve. Trust me. I don't even get it out that well. And again, I think you articulate. I think people like that. Like everything that you've talked about leadership. You've talked about training. You talked about loyalty. Just from the things that you've said, that's important to me with talking to you, that I would take off of your resume. How you want to strive, you want to go higher. I mean, you said that right away. And that's what I wish a lot more people would say it like that. You're determined. There's nothing wrong with just putting it out there, that was the other question there. So, but I'll tell you what, if anybody, again, we're going to, we have the resume, I have your resume, we'll send it. Listen, direct hire fee, this is on myself. It's free. There's nothing, I don't get anything out of this. I just enjoy having somebody on and showing them how on LinkedIn, how with leadership, how we can help somebody find another career and change a life. I mean, with four kids, wife, everybody's schooling. I mean, you have a great background on everything that you've done. So I can't thank you enough, Travis. I mean, it's been
I appreciate it
for me to interview you, and like I said, both in the military. Pleasure. Yeah. And like I said, Travis's information's on the bottom, his email. So, on that note, everybody, thanks everybody, Daryl, Steve, Bill. I didn't see Tuvia tonight. I got to get on him. He's in Florida, and I want to put him in touch with you to connect. And I think it's going to be a good fit for you because he handles a lot of staffing on Florida, a lot of professional services. So, all right, everybody, thanks so much. And we'll be back tomorrow, and we're going to end it here. And we're going to call it with a video.